So let's go on to now this question here. This is a D question worth 6 marks. And here again I've just reminded at the bottom, what is the examiner looking for? You can see at a level 3 response with the arrow that they're looking for you to show a level of understanding to do with what Christians think about just war. So let's have a look at what actually a just war is, or what war is in the Christian view of war. Again, here are some of the things that would, if used properly, get you those 6 marks. So you'd have to understand what a just war is. You'd have to understand why Christians might agree or disagree with a just war, and why some Christians might believe war is justifiable. You're going to have to show an understanding of those things. So I've added some slides in that's going to talk about this idea of a just war. So here are some key questions when it comes to war. Should there be rules in war? Is self-defense a good reason to go to war? What amount of force is acceptable? Can you use all types of weapons? So all of these things to do with war are absolutely key, and you need to think about answers to these questions. So the theory of a just war, what are we actually talking about? Well, the idea of a just war is what makes a war just or right. There was a man, his name was Thomas Aquinas. He was a Christian, he was a monk who came up with this theory called a just war. And he basically said you should use no more force than is necessary to achieve your ends. And that it must be started by the correct authority. You can't just have people deciding that they've had enough and starting a war. It must be started by those in the right authority. You shouldn't target civilians in any way. And it must seek to establish peace. If you're doing it because you want their land or you want their resources, then clearly it is not a just war. It must use less violence than not going to war. So the idea is, if you've been invaded, and obviously the Second World War where lots of people are dying, actually the assumption is we're going to defeat this army or go to war to ultimately try and stop the violence that's being used at the moment, and that more might die if we don't step in and go to war than if we do. And again, so these ideas are all ideas about what a just war is. So you need to think through what each one of those means, and this is what the theory of a just war means. So from a Christian point of view, what would a Christian do? So you could see they talk about the idea of a just war and what each one of those things would mean. There are other things as well. So they might put a pressure on the government to stop it. They might be prepared to take part as non-combatants, medical. They might believe that war is always wrong because of biblical teaching and refuse to take part. Thou shalt not kill. Regardless of the ideas of a just war, some will believe that the Bible says not to kill and they won't take part. They might wish to help people that have been harmed by the war. For example, charity or relief work may be a way that they could help and show compassion. They might consider whether it fulfills the conditions of the just war theory, and actually use that to decide whether they should go to war. And they might fight in the war under certain circumstances, especially if they consider it to be moral or part of the just war idea. So they might not have a problem with going to war. So there are lots of things a Christian might do if it came to actually thinking about going to war, or their attitudes towards war.